All right, Locked In Podcast, Episode 6, Sammy O, Joe Pfeiffer, special guest today. I want to make sure I introduce you the right way. So, living in Philadelphia, what I love about it is there's neighborhoods, and you got the Italians, you have the Irish, you got the Polish. We have the biggest, baddest Polish dude in all Philadelphia, and say his name right, Dawejko. Joey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
So it's not Dawejko.
No, it's
Dawejko.
not. It's actually with a V.
Dawejko.
Dawejko.
Yeah, okay.
Dawejko. So the J's kind of silent. The W shouldn't be there.
So everybody gets it wrong.
Everybody.
I've gotten it wrong for a long time.
Yeah.
Everybody always told me Dawejko, and I've always heard your name, but now I get to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I've always seen you. Combo.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
So, Joe, I'm going to tell you the first time I saw you fight. You were still an amateur. And I forget where I was, but people were talking about you. They're like, damn, Joe's on this card, man. This dude can fight.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking shit on you at all, so don't beat me up after this. I go, where is he? And they point over to you, and I look
And
at
you laughed, right?
And I go, this is the dude they're hyping up. And then I watched you fight, and I was like, holy shit. It was like, dude, you're like James Toney. It was like watching James Toney. I was like, I couldn't believe the way you can move your head, how agile you were, and obviously you can punch. And it was awesome to see you fight. And I've been following your career for a really long time, man. So tell us how you got started in boxing.
I was 9 years old. My grandpa took me to the legendary Blue Horizon. It was a local Golden Gloves fight, actually. It wasn't even a pro fight. And I was just sitting there, and I asked him, I was like, man, can I do this? I had to wait till I was 10. So when I turned 10 that summer, he took me to the Harrogate Boxing Club. That's where I started, and that's how it all began.
So who were your original trainers at Harrogate?
Charlie Skrillo. Charlie Skrillo started me out. And then Mike Malloy and Jimmy Lowry took over throughout my amateur career. I won a lot of national titles with them in my corner. Charlie kind of took back over for a little bit, and then I guess probably 2005, 2006, I started training with Brian McGinley. And he's the one that took me into the pros.
Wow, okay. Yeah, Brian's a great guy, Fishtown guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, so you start off boxing at Harrogate. How many, you're 10 years old, how many, take us through how many amateur fights you've had and, the ages you were fighting at.
So I had 68 amateur fights. I started my first amateur fight, I was 10.
What was that like?
It was crazy because it was a Golden Gloves fight too. So that was my first amateur fight. I had Bear Richardson in my weight class, who is Nazim Richardson's son, legendary boxing trainer in Philly. He was in my weight class. I fought this kid Mark Angelo from Manayunk, and Anthony Thurber was in my weight class too. He trained at another gym at the time. So me and Mark fought. I lost. Anthony and Bear fought. Anthony lost, and then Anthony came over to Harrogate after that. So we all kind of grew up together, you know what I mean? Me, Anthony, Danny Garcia was there. We were all training there at the same time. So then I just kept going. My first nationals, I think I was 11. Yeah, I was 11, and that was the National Silver Gloves. I won. I didn't have anybody to fight here because I was heavy. I was 125 pounds at 11. So
Is that when the nickname Tank started?
yeah, actually it was.
You got it when you were a kid.
So this guy, a trainer from Young Guns Boxing Club, Kevin Carmody, actually named me that when I was little, you know. But that was my first national tournament. I didn't fight here. The regionals, they didn't have anybody. And I was thinking, like, man, I'm gonna go to the nationals. I'm not gonna be able to fight. And here I had a bunch of people in my weight class, so I was happy. You know, I only had 2 fights at the time, two or three. And then I went out there. I stopped the first kid. The second night,
And where was this at?
Kansas City. Yeah. First time on a plane. Like, it was just an awesome experience. And then the next night, I beat a kid from California. And, like, in the amateurs, fighting guys from California, especially in like them kind of tournaments, like, it's like you never beat them dudes, you know what I mean? Because they're all the favorites. But I beat the kid from California. That was my first national title. Wow. I just kept going on from there, man.
What? And this was at 10 or 11?
I was 11.
11.
No,
Wow.
yeah, I was 11. 2002.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, you started young.
Yeah. I'm glad I did. Yeah. So then after that, I've won a bunch of national tournaments. 14 national tournaments altogether. I won the Junior World Championships in 2008. That was in Guadalajara, Mexico.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So
you were international before you even turned professional.
Yeah, definitely.
How was Mexico? Because I'm fighting in Mexico next month, end of next month. And I'm eerie about it.
Yeah, so we weren't in a good part of Mexico. We were in like the slums, dude. But it was a great experience. Like, it was awesome. So where we stayed, everybody kind of stayed. There was like 2 or 3 different hotels. There was a bunch of countries there, you know. So everybody had to like keep our USA stuff on to make sure like we all stuck together, right? So we were out walking one night, and it was just the fighters, like the coaches and my grandpa came with me too, actually. So it was just the fighters that were walking around. And we were walking around, and down the street we found a strip club. So I was 17 at the time, right? We were all underage, but it didn't matter over there. Yeah, it didn't matter. So we go into the strip club, right? And every country is in there, all the fighters. And I was like, yeah, this is great.
Everybody had the same idea.
Yeah. So we were in there, and we seen a kid from Ireland come down, and the stripper was walking behind him, and you knew exactly what he did, you know what I mean? Yeah. He had his shirt off and everything. Like, dude, it was nuts. Like, it was so crazy. So so after the tournament started, like a couple days after, the strip club got shut down. Like, the fighters were going in there, they were getting drunk, they were throwing chairs, they could completely destroyed it.
I can only imagine what strip clubs in Mexico
it was
are like.
so
I'm
crazy.
sure they're wild.
So I would have to be in the hotel because I had a curfew. I kept winning, so if you win, you got to fight the next day. So I was going back to the hotel, just like going to sleep or whatever, and they would come back and tell me the stories of like the stuff that happened. I was like, yo, these are crazy. But it was fun, man. I had a lot of fun in the amateurs.
When did you turn pro? 2008, 2009?
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
And how many professional fights have you had? Just boxing.
45 pro fights, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And you would go out to California all the time too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so from 2015 to 2020, I was training out in California.
Wow, okay. With Buddy McGirt?
Yeah, I was with Buddy McGirt. I was with Freddie Roach. I was with Justin Fortune. I was with a few different trainers out there. Yeah.
So I know, like, we're all fighters here, and like what happens in the gym stays in the gym, and like you're not really allowed to tell sparring stories. Yeah. So when Anthony Joshua was fighting
Andy
Ruiz, yeah, I'm sorry, Andy Ruiz, you were one of Anthony Joshua's sparring partners, weren't you?
Yep.
And there's a story.
Yeah, there's a story out of
There's a story that somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
And it might have involved Jill.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the story going around.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Anthony Joshua was concussed a week before his fight with Andy Ruiz.
What was it like sparring him?
It was great. It was down in Miami, so this was his first time. So he was supposed to fight Jerome Miller in Madison Square Garden. It was in New York.
And he kept getting popped, right?
So Jerome Miller tested positive for steroids, so they needed somebody. It's a crazy story actually how this happened, because 7 weeks before Anthony Joshua fought Andy Ruiz fought another guy, Alexander Dimitrenko, right? So he was in the gym sparring like a week before that fight. And I just so happened to be at the same time, like in the gym at the same time. So I actually sparred Andy Ruiz, right? So we did 5 or 6 rounds. Like it was a good camp, or good training session, right? So then he goes and beats Alexander Dimitrenko, and then the story comes out that Jerome Miller got popped. So they're looking for a heavyweight to fight Anthony Joshua. And I texted Andy Ruiz, and I was like, yo, you're going to get that fight. Like, you just had a good fight with him. You're already in shape. Like, it's a perfect setup for you, right? And then he texted me back the next day. He said, yo, I got it. And I was like, yeah, that's fucking crazy, right? Sorry, am I allowed to curse on
You
this?
can do and say whatever you want.
So I was like, yo, that's crazy. So 2 weeks after that, well, actually probably 3 or 4 weeks after that, I get a call to go down and spar Anthony Joshua, and I was like, yeah, that's perfect sparring because I'm the same build as Andy Ruiz, so it's like perfect, right? So I go down there, I spar him. It was in Miami. It was the first time he was in America. Like it was just a great training camp, great experience. It was good sparring, you know. I was perfect for him too, you know. So that's kind of how it happened.
And like I've watched a lot of your fights, and I like I said, I followed your career. You went out to, didn't you spar with the Klitschko brothers too?
Yeah, Vladimir Klitschko.
So you went to Ukraine.
I was in. They run their camp in Austria.
In Austria.
Yeah, so I was in Austria for that.
What was that like?
That was amazing. That was like the best camp I've ever been to.
Beautiful country too, right?
It was like a resort. People go and like back when he was fighting, they would like announce his fights, and people would book their vacation to stay at this resort as he's like during his training camp. So he would have 100 people come in and watch his training camp every day. You know what I mean? And people like loved to do it. But that was excellent. Like everything was amazing there.
There's one fight in particular. I remember watching it live and like being heartbroken for you. When you fought that big Russian, the big bald-headed Russian guy. You won that fight.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name?
Sergey Kuzmin.
Yeah, Sergey Kuzmin, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch that fight?
No. I've always heard of your name, but I never got to watch you actually box.
And that was a world title eliminator? Was that to fight for a world title?
So it was for the WBA Intercontinental title.
It was for a title.
So
yeah.
it was to basically get ranked to fight for a title. I took that fight on like 16 days notice. I was training, I was doing everything, and then they fucked me.
Yeah, you won that fight.
Yeah,
you decisively, like it was this guy was very talked about. They were very excited about him, and they thought they were going to get a guy to fight him, and like the dude was just going to like embarrass Joey. And Joey, you rewatched that fight. Joey won the fight. Yeah.
That was very disappointing to me. I wasn't supposed to win, and I went in and I did what I had to do, and I lost a majority decision. It is what it is.
Do you feel like you watch MMA?
I don't.
So do you feel okay?
Sorry.
So do you feel no, that's fine. Do you feel that boxing is political as far as the judging?
It definitely can be. Like if you have the right promoter behind you, you could definitely, it could sway in your favor. Definitely back in like the 80s and 90s, it was very political. I don't know if it still is or what, but I know if you have the right people behind you, you get a better shake. You know what I mean?
How do you feel about all the YouTube boxing these days with the Jake Pauls and the Tommy Furies and KSI?
Yeah, I don't care about them. Jake Paul is actually like he's actually living like a fighter. Like he's doing everything he needed to do to train and compete as a fighter. And if you compare his record to anybody else, like nobody fought world champions in their first 10 fights, like, and that's what everybody's calling for him to do. Like that's not how it works, you know what I mean? And people are trying to clown him because he's not fighting real fighters. Like it's stupid. And the Tyson fight, that was just a money grab for both of them, you know what I mean? They both knew that they could make money with it, and that's why it happened.
Yeah, I didn't like watching the Paul versus Tyson because I think it hurts Tyson. You know, you're fucking with his legacy as like one of the best boxers in the world. But, you know, if it made him millions, then yeah, you know, fair play to him. And I was happy to see that he didn't get finished. That's the one thing I didn't like, is I thought he was going to actually knock Mike out. But I was glad to see that it wasn't.
Yeah, he kind of gave him his respect and didn't hurt him, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, Tyson's 60 years old, you know what I mean? I don't think it hurt his legacy, though. People aren't going to, in 20 years, they're going to hear Mike Tyson's name, and they're going to say, oh, look, he was the youngest heavyweight champion of the world. He fought all these people. Jake Paul's not going to get mentioned in that, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. They both made money. Tyson needed it, obviously, so it is what it is.
So I definitely wanted to talk about your boxing career, but, dude, I'm dying to ask you about your bare knuckle fight. For anyone who didn't watch it, Joey just fought at the Wells Fargo Center, and they gave you an opponent where, I mean, you're what, like 5'10", 5'11"?
I'm 5'9" 3/4.
5'9" 3/4.
Yeah, I'm.
You're 5'11" with work boots on.
Yeah.
They gave Joey a guy who was 6'5",
300 pounds.
300 pounds, and I mean the guy's head, like. Joe, those shots you were landing on him, if it was anyone else, they were knocked out.
See, that's a thing, too. Like, David Feldman offered him to me, and I was like, yeah. I mean, I asked him, I said, do you think it's a good fight for me starting off? He said, yeah, he'll be perfect. And I was like, all right, and that's who I'm fighting then. Like, I never turned down an opponent. I never turned down a fight, so it didn't matter to me how big he was, you know what I mean? And then...
He was, what, 5-0 on BKFC?
No, he was 3-2. 3-2, yeah. So he had.
And he had a Muay Thai background.
Yeah, he had 80 Muay Thai fights. Like he had a bunch of MMA fights. He knows what he's doing. Like, you know what I mean. And he's a scrapper too. So actually, after the fight, he texted me. Like he was just saying, he said, "Yo, I fought Mark Hunt one time, and he hit me with like 2 big overhand rights, and he stopped in the middle of the fight, and he asked me if I was all right." And I was like, "Yeah, that's nuts, dude." He was like, "Yeah, I haven't felt my face in 10 years," and I was like, "Dude, you're crazy."
You put a hole in his face.
Yeah, he had a hole in his lip. I knocked 2 of his teeth out. Like it was crazy.
Still standing. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yo, I hit him with everything. Like broke both of my hands. Like broke my foot.
I don't even know how that's possible.
I know, dude. I have no clue.
So I missed it. I was, like I said before, I went to the bathroom and I was pissed off because I didn't realize you were the next one, and I couldn't get back because there was just a ton of people in the bathroom, and then people stopping you for pictures and all that crap. And I heard the crowd, man. It was the oohs, the ahs, and then when I came out, you were on the ground, and I was like, what the fuck? And then that's all I got to see, and then I guess whatever the result was, I don't even know how you actually lost.
Yeah, so he didn't. The ref stopped it. Like I don't know. I honestly don't know why, but not for nothing. I'm kind of glad he did. You know what I mean? So the first 2 rounds, I hit him with everything, and then the third round, like I knew my hands were broke. We were in like a clinch, and he kind of tied me up. And he hit me with like both of his fists, and I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" It was crazy, but then we both went down. Like I tripped, and I was like stumbling down, and I kind of grabbed his foot, and he fell too, you know. And then I stood up, and the ref was like watching close, and the dude tried to throw punches, and I was like moving from him, but the ref just jumped in and stopped it. Like I don't know if it was he felt like I was hurt or what it was, but if that was the
Did you
case,
feel hurt at all through your fight?
No, I did. I wasn't hurt at all. He barely hit me with like he may have landed a couple clean shots. Everybody gets hit. You know what I mean?
I see a scratch on your nose,
dude,
and I don't see anything else.
That was it. Like it wasn't nothing. Like my face was like it wasn't nothing. But it is what it is.
So, like, ready? Rugby's like football. Cricket is like baseball. Bare knuckle is like boxing, but it's not.
Completely different, dude.
Now that you've done one bare knuckle fight, like reflecting back on your training camp, would you have done things differently? Because you don't really know until you do it.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I didn't know if I should start fast. I didn't know if I should hit the body. Like it's just a complete different thing, and a lot of people think it's the same thing, but it's really not. And I didn't know that until 5 seconds in. You know what I mean? So I kind of had to adapt to the style of the bare knuckle style. You know, moving forward, if I ever plan to do it again, there's going to be a lot more training for endurance and stuff like that because it's very fast paced. Like there's no time to even think of like what the hell's going on.
So did you actually train hard for this fight?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had 45 pro boxing fights. I haven't been motivated to train in a long time, and I'm being completely honest. Like, there was no money, there was no name that they offered that I was like, oh shit, like I'm fucking excited to train for this. But once I found out about bare knuckle and I got the okay from Dave and everything was good, I was like, yo, I'm excited for this. You know what I mean? So I was training every day. Like I did everything I had to do. It's just a different game.
Yeah. I'd say body type, style of fighting, and like the size of your hands, like you're built to do bare knuckle fights. You are.
And everybody says that too. Like my style is built for bare knuckle. The only thing is like, so training for this guy that I was fighting, he's 6'5", he's 300 pounds. Like for me, my whole game plan was to stay on the outside and just come in when I could and be explosive when I punched. Right. I didn't really train on like
feeling someone's weight on you,
that, or like being in the clinch and hitting in the clinch on the break and shit like that. So, like,
which you can't do in boxing. That's illegal in boxing.
You can't. But the fact that he was 6'5", I was thinking too. Like, I'm not gonna try to reach up for his head and try to hit him with uppercuts. While you know what I mean? It just it didn't make sense to me to do that. So I didn't really train for anything like shit like that. Only except like a couple days in the gym with Cody Russell, and we were just like moving around like clinching.
And my man is also like 180 top.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and he's shorter than me.
Sure,
so
yeah.
so it was just like I wasn't planning on that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you said the pace, it's more chaotic obviously than a boxing match. There were things that you could do you couldn't do in boxing that you can do in bare knuckle, like the clinch. But like, as far as, and I think people have like this stigma, like, oh yeah, you should be punching brick walls, or you should be putting this stuff on your hands to make it harder. I mean, did you think about doing anything crazy like that?
No. So the only thing I really did was I trained without gloves,
Yeah,
not
like hitting
sparring or
pads.
anything. So hitting pads, hitting the bag, stuff like that. And also it is kind of crazy when I was in camp with Klitschko. So what he would do, he had like this bamboo post, and he would just sit there and he would tap it like with his knuckles just to like get his knuckles ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did kind of do that a little bit, but nothing crazy. So you don't have to punch a brick wall and shit like that. You don't. It's not like that.
Yeah.
So how motivated are we to get back to another BKFC fight? Or do you have a desire to do another BKFC fight?
I feel since I lost, I feel like I have to redeem myself. Only because like I had so many people there. Like the Wells Fargo Center
it was
was
very
crazy,
loud for you,
dude.
Joe.
It was
very loud.
nuts. Like that was the craziest thing that like I've ever been involved in. And I just feel I owe myself, my family, and friends and fans a winning performance. You know what I mean?
Does your wife and your 3 daughters, do they come to the fights?
So my kids didn't come. My wife did.
Have your kids been to any of your fights?
Only when they were younger.
To where they kind of don't remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Would they be terrified, you think?
Yeah, so they started watching the Bare Knuckle and they shut it off at home, like so they didn't see it. Because even though I wasn't bleeding, my opponent was, and I had blood everywhere. Like it was all over me, dude. Like it looked like I got slaughtered, and I didn't because it was his blood. But they just see that and they start freaking out. Like one of my other fights, it was on TV. They started watching in a boxing match, and they started freaking out like right away. And my wife had to turn it off. You know what I mean? It just they don't want to see me get hurt or anything. You know.
So another thing that you've done too, because I don't think people realize like how much you have competed. You recently did, was it called Total Combat League?
Team Combat League.
Team Combat League, yes,
Yeah.
Team Combat League. Can you? It was like a boxing team. And you would do like what, a round or two, kind of?
Yeah, so it's a team setting boxing match. There's 24 rounds altogether. Next season they're changing it up a little bit, but last season, the first 2 seasons, there was like 6 weight classes. So heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight, like all up and down, but there would be 2 people in each weight class. So the first 8 rounds are called I forget what they're called, but the first 8 rounds, like each weight would go in, they would do a round, and then they would come out. So it was like a team setting. So however the round was scored goes to the point tally, and then it just keeps going. The last rounds are called the money rounds. So it was supposed to be where the home team gets an advantage because they would pick who would be in the money round. So if you're the strong middleweight or whatever, and their second middleweight, you think you would beat them or knock them out, that's when you would put them in the money rounds because like that's when the extra points come in and it matters sometimes, you know. But the Philadelphia team, we won the championship.
Yeah, you guys were stacked.
Yeah,
I mean,
we
you had Ray Robinson, Jesse Hart.
Jesse Hart, Quadira Albright.
Yeah.
We had a team, like a really good team. So we won a championship. We were on the season. I think we were 9-1 or 8-1 on the season. We got ripped off up in Boston, but there was fighters getting knocked out and they were like reversing the points and shit. Like it was crazy. But we should have definitely been undefeated, but we finished 8 or 9-1. Wow. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Did you have any knockouts in that?
No, I didn't. So that's another thing. Like it's really fast paced because you're only fighting a round. You have a chance to go back in the money rounds too. So it would be 2 rounds altogether, but you got 1 round to go out and do whatever you do. You know what I mean? So the first week for the Miami and the Vegas team, they fought down in Miami, and one of the heavyweights killed the guy from Vegas. So I don't know if anybody heard about it.
No, I did hear about that. Yeah.
So the dude had like a concussion. He wasn't supposed to fight, and they let him fight, and he wound up dying after he got knocked out.
It was the Vegas guy who died.
Yeah, the Vegas guy. Yeah. So I think it was the 3rd or 4th week we were fighting Miami, and the heavyweight, like I was supposed to fight, and everybody was like, "Yo, like this dude just killed somebody. You're gonna fight him?" And I was like, "I don't give a fuck, dude. It's boxing. Like, it's what happens." So I actually got into like a little scuffle with the other heavyweight at the weigh-ins. So when you weigh in,
can you describe what a scuffle is?
So.
Was it a shoving match?
Yeah, just shoving. Like it wasn't nothing.
No punches
crazy.
thrown.
Nah. So when we weigh in and we line up, there's like lines where you're supposed to stand, right? So when we get in front of the camera, the dude came over to my line, and I was like, "Yo, what the fuck?" And I was like, "Yo, back up." And he took that as me like pushing him, and then he just like like bad. And I was like, "Yo," and then he tried to like go for my throat, like he tried, and I was like, "Yo, what the, like stupid shit." So we get into the fight, and I mean, he's actually a bare knuckle fighter, but with another organization too. So we're in the fight, and I was like, "Yeah, this dude's like not even that good. He's acting like he's fucking like he's great." I wound up losing the round, but I was like, it's crazy. But I fought the other heavyweight in the money rounds, and I beat him, and he was huge. Like this dude's like 6'5", like 300 pounds. But that was a harder fight than the first fight that I lost. So it was a little weird. You know what I mean?
So you've done like 12 round fights. Or only 10?
The most I've been was 10.
10 rounds.
Yeah, I've been scheduled for 12, but the most I've been was 10.
Okay. Which is half an hour is like an extremely long time.
Very long. Yeah.
When you were doing those fights and it was like you went out there and you fought for 3 minutes and then you got to cool down and then you had to go back out there and fight for 3 minutes, was there like a weird adrenaline dump? Or did you feel fine?
Nah, what, for like a regular boxing match?
No, for the team combat league.
So the first fight we fought New York, who were the season 1 champions. So our first fight, we were a new team in the combat league. Our first fight was against the champions from the previous year. And it was like crazy. We were at the 2300 arena, like it was just crazy down there. And leading up to the fight, we were tied going into the last round, and that was me against I forget his name, Price Taylor. So it was me going in against Price Taylor. So after the first round, I was like, man, I'm like that's exhausting. You know what I mean? You don't think just doing one round is. So I'm sitting there, and I was like, I don't like. This is going to be rough going back in. So
especially taking a break.
Yeah.
Too.
So and it was a long break too. It wasn't just like a 5 or 10 minute break. Like I was the 8th round. I had to go all the way through to the 24th round, and I'm just sitting there waiting. And I'm like, man, this is rough. So we go into the last round. I needed the win to win the first match, you know, because we were tied going into it. So I go out. I'm boxing him, and he hits me with a right hand, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck was that, dude?" So I'm like, "Yo, I gotta like this dude can punch." So I'm moving around, and he hits me again, and I was like, "Yo, what the fuck, dude? Like, calm down. Why you hit me so hard?" That was the hardest I've ever been hit. Yeah, it's crazy. So I wound up throwing an overhand right. He almost goes down completely. Like I get the momentum back. I beat him the rest of the round, and we wind up winning. Like that was the craziest. Like it was so crazy how it played out, because once they announced my name, like the whole arena went nuts. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So after that, I wound up getting a concussion. Like I didn't know I had a concussion. Yeah. So that was a couple days before Easter. That was the Thursday before Easter last year. So on Easter I wake up and I'm like spinning, and I'm like, man, something's wrong. And every time I look up, like I know that like I'm fucked up, right? So for 3 days I was in bed after that, like just laying down, just not doing anything. I was sleeping a lot. So here the next week comes, and they're like, yo, you got to fight this other day. And I'm like, I didn't tell anybody either. Like at this point, I didn't tell anybody. Yeah. So they brought a heavyweight from the LA team. I went out, I beat him twice in the rounds. And then, so Miami was the 3rd week. I was still feeling it.
I bet, man. Yeah, concussions are no joke.
So that was another thing I was saying. I'm going in to fight this dude that just killed somebody a couple weeks ago because he had a concussion, and I have a concussion, and I'm sitting there thinking like, fuck, like something's gonna happen, but everything was good.
And you beat this
him.
guy.
Yeah, I beat him. Yeah.
Screw
it was
him.
nuts. Yeah.
Can't kill you.
Yeah.
So how was that in comparison to other leagues that you have fought for? What was the biggest league that you fought for in your professional boxing, aside from the team sport and then BKFC.
So like promotion, you mean?
Yeah,
The best promotion?
the biggest.
The biggest. I fought on Top Rank cards. I fought on Eddie Hearn Matchroom. I'm on
BPC, did you ever do?
PBC. Yeah, yeah. I fought on PBC before. Yeah. I fought on every major promotion company. I fought on Showtime. Fought on ESPN a bunch of times.
So when did you? Obviously, you're not retired, but you're
don't-
still
I don't
fighting.
know. Yeah.
But when did it kind of slow down for you? And what's your goal with boxing still, or is that?
So I actually it feels like I don't want to box anymore, like fighting a regular boxing match. But if I'm offered enough money, I'll come out of retirement. So 2020, I fought Frank Sanchez on a PBC card. It was at the Barclays Center.
And that dude can punch.
Yeah,
Man. He
so
can hit.
yeah. So he was a big puncher. He was supposed to knock me out. I lost a decision. I made good money on that fight.
Big Cuban guy, lefty.
So that was my last like really big fight in 2020. It was actually a week before everything shut down for COVID, dude.
No shit.
Yeah, so I was like, man, thank
So
God
you
I
got
got
your
this.
payday, before that.
Yeah. I was like, man, thank God it worked out this way. Yeah, that was March 7th, 2020. A week later, everything got shut down. So I was glad that happened. But that was my last like biggest payday, and like my last biggest fight.
This question's fucked up, but I've really been wanting to ask you this for the longest time. When you get hit in the body, does it hurt?
It all depends, cause like my style, like I try to deflect every punch that's thrown at me, you know. So when they hit me to the body, like I'm either moving from it or like.
Because when I see people throw straight punches at your stomach, I'm like, I wonder how that feels for Joe.
Nah, all body punches hurt.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to it, like I don't really react from them. Shannon Briggs dropped me from a body shot one time.
Were you a kid?
19. I was 19, yeah. I was on the ropes. He went to throw a right hand, and I like rolled from it, and I went to push him off of me. And as I pushed him, he threw the body shot, and I was like, it was rough. That was really the only time I ever got hurt, like with a body shot.
I know you said like Total Combat or Team Combat League was the hardest you've ever been hit, but like who was the hardest puncher you either fought or sparred?
I'd say Deontay Wilder. Yeah, I was in camp with him. He's probably the biggest puncher that I've been in with. Him.
I assume you beat the crap out of him in boxing.
Yeah, so.
Because he doesn't strike me as somebody that's very
No.
technical.
It's like his attributes, like when you're 6'8" and you have the wingspan of someone 7 foot tall, it's like, yeah, it does help you a little bit. It definitely helps you.
So his style is so weird. Like he came to boxing late.
Yeah.
So his style is so weird. Like you could see a right hand coming and you would try to move from it, but the way he throws it, like you'll still get hit with it. It's weird. He was definitely the biggest puncher. But I was sparring him, so they brought me in. He was fighting Arthur Spilka, so he's a southpaw, and
he
that's,
knocked that guy out,
yeah,
man. That was
like
a brutal
bad,
knockout.
Yeah. So Arthur Spilka's a southpaw. They brought me in as a southpaw for sparring. I'm not a natural southpaw, but I can fight southpaw, right? So it was tough staying southpaw, like because I could switch. But it was tough staying southpaw. But it was easy. Like he couldn't hit me. Yeah. The only thing, he couldn't hit me at all. It was just the only thing he really hit me with was an uppercut, and I felt it, and I was like, oh shit, like this dude can really punch. But sparring him, like my style and how slick I am, it was easy.
So here's my question to you. And again, I turned 40 this year. You're 34, right? Yes. The older we get, the harder it is to make big changes in our career. I see someone like you, and I'm like, dude, if Joey Dawejko was a cruiserweight, Like it would, I would just love to see like how different your fights would be. Have you ever thought about, and again, working with a nutritionist and Joey, like the MMA world, this is what kind of separates the MMA world from the boxing world is like, the MMA world is like, it's based in the martial arts. There's a lot of like thinkers in it. So there's a lot of science that goes into the nutrition, the weight cutting. And I know it does with boxing as well too. But would you ever consider working with someone to help you get down to 200 pounds?
No.
No.
Listen,
Pierogies taste too good.
yeah, listen, man. No, you know what it is? In boxing, cruiserweights, 200 pounds, they never made money. So,
Yeah, good point.
you know what I mean? Compared to heavyweights, like,
I feel like nobody knows the cruiserweight champs. You're right.
yeah, I mean, like,
I
yeah,
know,
it's
I know
not-
Canelo, Crawford. I know Garcia. I know Haney. I
Tank.
know Lomachenko, Tank, Tyson Fury.
So the cruiserweight division, even though it's actually a stacked division, like there's a lot of good fighters in the cruiserweight division. Nobody knows about it though. So in order to make money in the cruiserweight division, like you would have to win a title, become undisputed, and then move up to heavyweight to make real money. You know what I mean? And it's not. It just doesn't happen. Usyk is the only one that did that.
Yeah.
Like over the past 15 years, like cruiserweights, like they didn't make as much, even as light heavyweights or heavyweights. It's just
No, it makes sense, Joe. It's a financial decision. It's smart to think that way. I get it.
so as a heavyweight too. I really never like I never made money up until 2015 in boxing anyway, but it just never it was never it didn't feel like the right decision for me, because why would I struggle to make 200 pounds to make a couple $1,000s in a local fight, or why would I struggle to make 200 pounds to make $50,000 in a world title fight if that's what it is? You know what I mean? Or why not weigh 230, fight somebody that's bigger than me, have an advantage because they're not used to fighting a guy as small as me, and make quadruple of what you would make in a world title fight as a cruiserweight. There's just at all.
Yeah, I guess that's the difference between boxing and MMA, right? Like they're all, every division is stacked, but you got guys like Alex Pereira that were walking at 225, 220, cutting to 85. Yeah. I'm walking at 220, 217, cutting to 85, and it's it's all the same pay for us, thankfully.
It's like two fights. Yeah, you win the fight to cut the weight, and then now you got to fight the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest fight's always the weight cut. It sucks, but.
Along with boxers too, like that happens in boxing all the time too. Guys walk around 20, 30 pounds heavier than their actual weight class. Like,
well, luckily I think MMA has less fighters like boxing. We only have 700 of us across the world in UFC, so every champion's pretty well known, unless your name's Bilal Muhammad. But that's you've seen that meme going around. Whatever, like they're like, who? Like everybody forgets who the champion is. He's definitely very good, but at least there's also not champions across, like, I don't know, WBC, WBA, I don't know, like all that stuff.
A lot of people always try to like compare them. You can never compare them, because in MMA, and correct me if I'm wrong, in MMA you fight for organizations. Like, you don't. In boxing we have sanctions. So if I'm ranked 15 in the WBA, I could fight the champion in the WBC. If you're ranked 5 in the UFC, you're not fighting number 1 in Bellator, right? It don't happen like that. And that's what I try to explain to people. They don't get it. Like,
yeah, UFC's brand only. UFC's ranked fighters are only fighting their ranked fighters, which I actually like, because I think once you start crossing all of it, it just jams up the division, especially because we only have like the jump from you have 55 to 170. There's no 60, there's no 65, which I think there should be. And then from 70 to 85, it's another 15-pound jump. There should be a 75 class, and then there should be a 195 class, but it just goes 55, 70, 85, 90, 185, and then 205, and then heavyweight. So, but I also think that they should bump up I think heavyweight, the cap is 260.
265, yeah.
I think they should 285. Somewhere's around there. Get some really big freaks in there. It'd be
Yeah, people want to see that. They do.
yeah. I miss when they just had like all weight class. You know, Hoist Gracie days. It was fun. But I'm surprised. You said you don't watch MMA. Yeah. Not a fan. Not into it.
No, I was never interested. I just always liked boxing.
I tried convincing them to do an MMA. And Joe, I just think when I look at you, I'm like, body type, like, don't you think he could wrestle? Like, I feel like
100%.
Yeah, I'm sure I could, but
And dude, when people try to kick you, they're standing on one leg. So it's like, dude, you punch somebody when they're standing on one leg, especially you throwing it.
Let's put it this way: when you want to talk about making money at heavyweight, it is kind of the same thing in UFC. There's a couple guys out of Philly. I'm not going to mention names, but they were getting paid more for less wins than I had just because they were a heavyweight, and they got a couple of knockouts and they did good, and it was short-lived, but it was still like there's not many good heavyweights in the UFC. Like what's the top three? You got Sergey, you got Cyril Gane, and then you got the champion and John Jones.
Where it's
Stipe
like
Miocic
so different.
retired. There's not really many good heavyweights that you're like, man, that guy's a fucking problem. You got Tom Aspinall, but
It comes and goes. The UFC heavyweight division. Remember when it was like Tim Sylvia was the champ? It's like it really has. It's like waves. It really is. You know what I mean? But I just don't see anyone beating John Jones. I don't right now.
I don't think.
yeah, I don't know enough to even talk about it. Yeah. But the thing with me, if someone kicks me in my shins, I'm gonna start crying like in the middle of the fight, and I don't want to do that on TV, so I'll stay out of it.
I'll tell you what, man. I will say, like, sometimes I'm like, man, I should have fucking boxed. I've gotten my shin chipped off from eating leg kicks.
Yeah.
But I ain't no bitch. I didn't go down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude, the nerve pain is it's ungodly.
See,
you can't walk for days.
Yeah, so you're saying you didn't go down. I would have immediately started crying. I would have flew the flag. That's it. I'm done. Yeah, that would have been it.
So there's something else I really like about you, Joe, and I feel like this is so important. And it's like you started off when you were a kid boxing, and you're still at the boxing gym, and you teach kids, you help train other fighters, you help pass knowledge on. To me, in Philadelphia, especially the way the city is, it's the only way it continues. You know what I mean? Where a former fighter comes back and now teaches the kids. So tell us about like what you've been doing lately at the gym, because you've been spending. I see your posts, like you're teaching classes every once in a while and stuff.
Yeah, so I try to help out at Jack Costello's boxing club as much as I can. I've been pretty busy, so I haven't been able to get there as much as I'd like to. But it's just it feels great for me to be able to give back, and in boxing, like I have a lot of knowledge. Yeah. You know, I'm not like I don't have a big head about it or nothing, but I've been all over the world, like. So all of that experience and knowledge, like, why wouldn't I try to give that back? And, like, when I was younger, we had old trainers, you know, and now all them old trainers are dying out. And nobody is a teacher anymore. Anybody could throw the towel over their shoulder and say, hey, double jab or 1-2 and be a trainer, but that doesn't mean you're a teacher of the sport. There's not many people that can actually carry that over as well. Like some fighters aren't necessarily going to be great trainers either, but it's a shame because all of the real teachers in Philadelphia are dying out.
Do you feel like all right, so you're a 10-year-old kid, you walk into Harrogate Gym. Now when you walk into gyms, do you feel it's like almost, and I hate saying this, like kid, like, damn, man, like I wish these kids could have been around when I was a kid. Like they really would have got like the real Philadelphia boxing gym experience. Do you feel like the culture kind of is dying off a little bit?
Yeah, it definitely is. Because like I said, all the real teachers, not trainers, the teachers are dying out. You know, and there's not many people that could carry that and teach the kids coming up now. So MMA started getting more popular. Everybody's was doing that. Like boxing itself, like it's starting to die out because of that reason.
So, another question I have for you: can you explain your hand injury? You said you broke your hand, but like exactly where did you break your hand?
Fourth metacarpal, I
So
think.
like this bone here, like right.
Yeah, like the ring finger.
The ring finger.
Yeah,
okay.
so I have a rod in it.
Oh, so you got surgery.
Yeah, I had surgery.
My teammate, Itzo,
Yeah,
Baba
yeah.
Luiz,
Yeah.
had the same exact thing. Pat Brady had the
Yep.
same exact
so
thing.
we were all in the operating room like together.
You got
in
Dr.
each-
Tosti?
Yeah.
Okay, he did he did 2 surgeries for me when I had broke my elbow in
Oh, really?
pieces.
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome, yeah.
I got mat return, shit shattered,
Yeah.
had he did both my surgeries.
Yeah.
He's actually the saving grace as to why I'm actually able to do MMA
That's
because
awesome.
they said my career was over. So shout out to
Yeah.
Dr. Tosti because he's the man.
Yeah, we were all in there at the same time. Me, Pat, and Ito.
So he was busy that night.
Yeah, I think he had 4 that day, or 3 that day, all from bare knuckle.
How early did you break your hands in the fight?
So I think my left hand, I think I broke it in the first round. My right hand in the second round.
That was a monster left hook you landed on him. He didn't even know where he was. He's like looking around.
Yeah, I landed a few left hooks on him, and it was crazy.
See, Joey, wouldn't you like to be able to? Okay, I broke these. Wouldn't you like to be able to elbow somebody, man?
No.
Or take him to the ground.
Yeah, because I don't want anybody to elbow me either.
Yeah.
So that's a difference too. Like if I'm able to elbow and put you in a toe hold and all that shit, you know what I mean? They're able to do it to me.
Kensington pretzel hold?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't want that, man.
Well, I have to say, you're probably the most humble, tough guy I've met.
Thank you.
That can whoop
Thank you.
somebody's ass. So, super personable.
Yeah.
It's cool.
A lot of people, like reporters and shit, asked me before, like, growing up, like street fighting, don't you think like this is the same thing? And I'm like, I've never really been in a street fight, so I have no fucking clue. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah, people talk about that all the time, and it's like I was a street fighter, and it's like, no, you weren't. Like maybe you got drunk one night and punched someone at a bar, but like
You fought the Evanescence emo kid.
yeah.
In high school.
You punched someone when they weren't looking. Now you're a street fighter. Yeah.
So speaking of BKFC, we might. Well, I don't know if he's going to do celebrity boxing or if we're going to get him to do one more BKFC fight. But you've been in there, you've done it. We might have to help you. Help Sam here get ready for one.
Joe, like, yeah, so again, low level conversations, like they're like I'm not saying yes or no. I do want to do it. Seeing you guys fight at the Wells Fargo Center for me, like, definitely inspired me. It was like I had 18 professional fights, 16 MMA, 2 boxing matches, and I fought in big arenas. I fought in tiny little, halls too.
Bellator.
Yeah, I fought in Bellator. I fought on TV a bunch of times, and it's like this is it. And shit, if I break my hand, it's not like I'm like, oh man, well, I wanted to fight 6 months from now. It's like, all right, well, if I break my hand, I break my hand at this point. But no, dude, we would love, dude, like honestly, and I've been messaging you for a long time about coming to the gym, and just because his feints were so good, I was like, yo, can you show Joey some of your feints? We'd love to have you at the gym on a Saturday helping out.
Man.
Seriously.
It'd be cool. We got a lot of talent at our gym, and I know it's MMA, but we got a lot. We could always MMA guys aren't good boxers for the most part, and I think it's like how you're saying BKFC is different. MMA striking is different because you have to worry about getting elbowed in the face, getting kicked in your fucking face, getting kicked in your leg, watch for the takedown. So we're a little bit more like brawl style, but we all could use help in boxing. And you have a wealth of knowledge, obviously. So
That would be cool.
yeah.
And haven't you always wanted to wear the little short spandex shorts though?
That's another no.
No, I thought he was going to say yes. Oh man, really accentuates the curves, man.
Oh, and another thing, how did they wrap your hand? They wrap the thumb, and then they the tape kind of goes up on the.
Yeah, so it was weird how they did it. So at the weigh-ins the day before, they gave me like this gel pad and told me to try it on. So I was like, what is this? So apparently the commissioner of Pennsylvania, Ed Kunkel, who was a great dude, like Ed he goes above and beyond, like he's the man. He said they weren't going to use them, so I didn't know if that was because I was new too, you know what I mean? I didn't know what was happening. That was a new thing, and they said no to it. So what he did was he put gauze on first, only went like behind the knuckle, like an inch behind the knuckle, and then when he was taping it, he did like a lot of ways around. And
Is it athletic tape? Is it like the flex
no, it's
tape?
hockey tape.
It's so okay. All right, I thought it was the stretchy tape.
So it's no. So it's like hockey tape. So when he taped my hand, he made me close it like this, right? And he went around my thumb and everything. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But when he opened it back up, that's when he went around, and I was like, oh shit, like I know, like it's protective for your wrist, like I didn't hurt my wrist or anything. So it was pretty weird. It was definitely like a new experience. Yeah, it felt good.
So outside of fighting, do you have any other ventures you're doing? I know you were roofing.
Yeah, I own a roofing company. Yeah, I still have a roofing company.
Primary Philadelphia.
I go all over. Yeah, I've done jobs in Jersey. I've done Reading, PA. I've been all over. It's pretty cool.
What are your hobbies? Do you play video games? Do you
Nah.
go on long walks?
No,
He's got
I'm
three
not-
Kick
kids.
dogs
Yeah.
in the park?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I never got into video games. When we were younger, we had Super Nintendo. That was about it. we couldn't really afford anything else. So I never really got into video games. I just hang out with my kids, man. That's pretty much it.
Simple man.
Yeah, I am a simple man.
All right, so we got it.
We
So
like to eat.
first things first, we got to get you to get that one back. Hopefully, you guys can get on the same card. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe in the summer.
That'd be cool, man.
Maybe the Wells
yeah,
Fargo
once,
again.
Once I heal up everything and get back to training, maybe we could set something up, and that would be awesome to fight on the car with you, man.
Hell yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, Joe, where can people find you at?
I'm not really like I know a lot of people like see me on there. I'm not really a big social media guy. Like I don't really pay attention to Instagram and Facebook and all that. But on Facebook and Instagram is really the biggest thing. At Joey the Tank Dawejko.
What about your business? Do you have a page for that?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page for that. That's Tank's Knockout Roofing.
Yeah, I like it. You kept it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I met a lot of people throughout the years in boxing, so I kind of had to keep a
You
play.
built that brand, man. You're
I
the
had
Tank,
to keep the
dude.
play on the roofing business too.
Awesome, man. Dude, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
dude. We
thank you.
appreciate it. This was
Appreciate
a
it,
great
man.
conversation.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Episode 6, we got to find out about the Tank.
Yeah.
Beating up everybody behind closed doors.
He broke his foot, too.
Yeah,
Broke his foot.
In a bare knuckle match. What the hell?
Should have just thrown the kick.
I know, right?
But, no, we appreciate you coming on. This is our 6th episode. Me and Sam, I've known Sam since I was 10, 11 years old. And we've been wanting to do a podcast for a little bit.
That's
So
awesome.
we appreciate everybody that
Yeah.
comes on. And
Yeah, definitely.
We're starting out, small and
Yeah, no,
trying
that's
to build
awesome.
it. So we just like bullshitting with people and figuring out their stories. It's cool. And appreciate you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.